This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Hello, listener. As many of you know, we actually record our Baconsale episodes about 5 days before they air. Well, I have some Baconsale predictions to make. By the time this episode airs on May 24th, 2021, I predict that Zach will be married, Kent will accidentally cause World War III to begin, and Ryan will finally have those cybernetic upgrades he's always wanted. Oh, and I'll finally make that trip to Alaska in my flying car. Oh, did I mention there are flying cars? Because there will be.
Wait, you get to go to Alaska?
You get to start World War III.
Zach has to get married?
In 5 days?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is airing
like
that
this.
day, though, so right now, you guys are seeing all these things have happened.
I'm really sorry, world.
Wow.
Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Zach.
We'd like to thank you for listening to our last show, our chip tiering part 1
So
show.
good.
It's part 1.
Because
Yeah,
we
part
held
one.
off on some specifically, and people were like, why didn't you include this one? And I'm like, because we held off.
We really should hit some of the the baseline ones. Whatever. We did fine.
Live
there.
and learn. Next time, we will do the originals first. It felt weird not talking about some of the originals.
And we'll put just chips in the next one and
we
not
won't
sneak
put-
a cracker in
The
there.
problem was is that every best chips list I looked up, Coldfish kept popping up, and I was like, no. And at first I was like, no, and then it kept popping up over and over again. I'm like, fine, we'll include it, but then maybe we want to save for a cracker show, and I declare we will keep it. We will have that in the cracker show if we do a cracker show.
Didn't the listener say he didn't want a cracker show?
The listener himself specifically
capital L
said,
listener.
I do not want
Which is really rude.
Yeah, but we can do it after he retires.
Okay.
Yeah,
deal.
so there was some controversy regarding the inclusion of a cracker over on the Twitter, I believe
We
it was.
apologize.
Speaking of Twitter, head over to Twitter where @CrewDutler has made a fun bag of bags drunk train half
Where
speed.
he takes our show and puts it at half speed, and we sound a little off.
Pretty funny. Also, just general comment. There are multiple listener who don't like Doritos, and I don't know how I feel about that.
It's weird.
Some people are saying Doritos are overrated. I don't know about that.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yes.
Have they ever been invited to a barbecue?
Doritos are the best.
But speaking of comments, @Verbis Vivum says, this was a fantastic episode, but I'm a little concerned at how sensitive y'all's mouths are when it comes to salt. Also, spicy sweet chili Doritos with French onion dip. You're welcome.
I will try that.
I will absolutely try that.
I will try
Wow.
100%. And then @Crumpy Lady says, Funyuns are a tier 3 chip, but your discussion on them on this episode was tier 1. So yeah, that was a fun, randomly fun show, as it happens with the weird stuff like that.
Maybe
on
crave
Baconsale.
food. Again, every time we do those shows, I'm like,
Yeah.
I want chips.
It's snacky.
Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Zach?
Well, we are taking a look at the future
The future, Zach?
from the period of the past at various times. What are we doing here today?
Wait, so when does Cyclops show up again in Colossus?
A Kitty Pryde?
Days of
Professor
future past.
Exec.
Yeah.
We're going
Yeah.
back to the future. Back to the past to see the future. So,
my brain is
Ryan,
bleeding.
help us. Ryan, this is your idea. This is your show. Help us.
Also, hi, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
hello.
Welcome to Baconsale.
Thanks, I'm back.
We've done robots. We've done Rush. We've done
Other robots.
More robots.
Yeah.
This is your 4th show, yeah.
And now, explain.
I was just recently watching Star Trek, for example, and I noticed that there's a couple of odd predictions.
Star Trek: The Original Series.
Star Trek, the original series, yeah. And I thought, well, that never happened like that. And so I just kind of got to thinking. And also, I think, Joel, I think you said on Twitter something about not having a Rock'em Sock'em robot that's life size.
Yes, after watching Real Steel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? There's all these movies that came back out like in the 60s and the 50s and whatever that predicted this marvelous future that we were going to have. And I was like, where is that future? So I wanted to go back and visit some of those old time movies and see what they thought was going to be happening. Seeing as how we're already living in the future. We're in the 21st century already.
You say marvelous future, but Skynet was supposed to take over in 1997, right? Mm-hmm. That's when the apocalypse was meant to happen.
But Sarah Connor stopped it.
Oh, no fate but what we
Don't you
make.
remember that
she
ending with
didn't-
the
yeah.
road, and we
She-
can make our future is what we make it.
She didn't stop Apple, Google, or Amazon.
No.
The
Yeah.
thing about it is, it's always risky to put a date on
Yes.
movies, and I don't think it's not like you shouldn't do it, but just know if you do it, be a little smart with it. So we took a list of these movies and we chopped it up into bits and figured out which ones are probably most relevant to the listener, to a general audience.
Yeah.
And we were going to go through. We have 16 movies. Each of us took 4.
Right.
And we're going to be talking about what they got wrong and what they got right, because these are all movies that should have occurred by now.
Right. And Ryan, you want a scoring system on these, right? So that we have a winner, definite loser, and whatnot, right?
Yes, I wanted to kind of figure out which one was the closest to, which one got their prediction the closest.
What are we scoring on?
I think we're going to score on 3 categories: world events, technology, and then just kind of overall culture, kind of like the feel of the time.
Okay.
Right?
But they'd have to like actually make a prediction or show the tech in order to probably get the points, right? Because some of these movies may have world events where it's just nothing has happened. It's suburban life or whatever, right?
Most of them it's like
may be right.
Most of them it's like kangaroos have taken over the earth.
I'd watch that movie.
Yeah, that's basically they're like these post-apocalyptic, like something catastrophic has happened.
Yeah.
And we're going to move through them in chronological order of the time they're set.
Right? Should we start?
Yes, please.
I will
Started.
take you on a journey through time where we enter 1985.
1985 sounds like a really dangerous year.
Yeah. Wait,
Because,
is 1984 not on this list? All right.
yeah, it's not on this list.
Okay.
We had to eliminate some.
Yeah.
So-
skip that one because of wanted to not get too close to all the political controversy.
yeah.
We're gonna do
Thank
our
you
best.
very much.
We're going to do our best to stay out of politics. So just keep it light and
So,
fluffy.
Joel, speaking of killer kangaroos, there are no killer kangaroos in this movie, but it does take place in Australia.
Australia. It's Australia.
It's Australia. Oh, great. You give me the Australia movie? For anyone who hasn't listened, go listen to the Bacon Bit where we have the quiz show. Anyways, in 1985, it's Mad Max.
And what year was that movie made?
1979. And so they said in the movie, a few years in the future.
6 years in the future.
Yeah. What it does, the only real prediction it makes is that cops are kind of, they don't really care. They're kind of vigilantes in a way, whereas if people are breaking the law, they're going to track them down and sometimes take them out. And all the cops...
To dinner?
Yeah, take them out to dinner. All the cops are dressed like T-birds from Grease 2.
Where do they go out to dinner?
Outback
Steakhouse.
That's not
Bloomin'
Australian.
onion.
Get some Alice Springs chicken.
It's the Alice Springs chicken is delicious.
It's so good. I made
Yeah.
a copycat recipe the other day, and it turned
did?
out really well.
I want some.
We're so obnoxious.
We really are.
Go on.
And so in this movie, that's what they're predicting is that motorcycle gangs have been sweeping through the outback and causing a lot of mischief, and the cops are coming after them, and there's just like this war going back and forth until, if you've seen the movie, I wonder if people have seen the original Mad Max and not just Road Warrior or Fury Road.
I didn't like the first one as much, but I did like the second one much more. Like that's one of the few ones where the
Sure.
sequel is better than the original.
Well, the original feels like a 70s, like, even though it's not home invasion, it feels like a home invasion movie because it's these vigilantes coming after his family, right?
Gibson's family.
Yes, and then he gets revenge.
And reasonably, every movie in the Mad Max franchise has already like taken place in our timeline, right?
Yes.
Because they're all fairly close to each other.
In fact, so the first one is 1985, Road Warrior 3 years later in 1998. 1988.
Math.
Yeah, right? And then Beyond Thunderdome jumps 15 years, so the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
these-
the next one jumps so
You're
far
telling
that
me
his
Tina
face
Turner's
changes.
hair was supposed to be in the early 2000s?
was it not? No?
That's 80s hair. I'm proud of it.
So with the tech, there's really nothing new here. The cars are old. They're kind of Australian sports cars, which doesn't mean much.
The thing I never understood about the Mad Max franchise, the whole thing,
Yeah.
is how there's this like dearth of everything. There's no food, there's no water, but there's gas.
Okay.
Gasoline.
Lots of
So
it.
I'm glad you brought this up because I could just use the first Mad Max as the movie where does it predict the future? Does it even try? Because it doesn't really try. But the writers were like, we need a sequel. People really like that low budget Australian movie. Let's make a sequel. And all of a sudden, there is a battle for gasoline because that doesn't even show up in the first movie at all.
It doesn't?
No.
The first movie honestly feels like it's totally
It's a
different
grindhouse
franchise.
movie.
It still feels in touch with reality.
Yeah.
You know, you're still seeing
But I mean,
these
there's,
normal
it's
places.
still a
but by
desert
Road
setting,
Warrior-
and there's not.
No, it's just the Outback. And that's it. People are just living their
Outback
lives.
looks like that.
Yeah. It's,
Are you sure there hasn't been an apocalypse with
It's-
kangaroos out in Australia?
It's pretty bleak. I'm not going to lie.
I thought like the opening crawl of that movie said something about how gas was still plentiful or something like
No,
that.
not at all.
Oh,
They get there in Road Warrior where they talk about how the warring nations have ruined gasoline. I guess what this movie is predicting is, or this franchise is predicting, is a world where these commodities are very, very rare, and so people are trying to find them, and gangs have just taken over. Because that's kind of the backbone of this franchise, is that there are dangerous people out there that will stop at nothing to get what they want.
so it's kind of like Walking Dead before Walking
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
precisely.
Walking Dead without the zombies.
It's Driving Dead. because
Driving
they're all-
Dead.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I'd watch that.
And so this one for me, and you guys can jump in and help me score, it doesn't really deserve a lot other than saying there have been nations battling over oil. Because they have based this on the Middle East and whatnot and oil reserves burning. but there's really nothing predicted here other than the fact that gangs are very dangerous.
Well, and the world ended.
Yeah, whatever
Yeah.
apocalypse that happened,
Which didn't happen.
yeah. So I don't think world event wise.
I mean,
very close.
if there is like an EMP or something like that, then yeah, a lot of things are going to be shut down. But
I do like your dependency on oil and gas, though.
yeah,
I mean, that's still very accurate.
so I think world events, like yeah, there could be a gasoline shortage. Maybe I'd give it a 1. Culture,
Wait, we haven't even discussed our scoring system yet.
yeah,
Oh,
okay, yeah.
We forgot that part.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I guess I was thinking kind of like soccer. So
So there's going to be no scores? We're going to stay here for 3
And
hours
it's
and no one's
90
going to score?
minutes.
yes.
I like soccer.
Yeah. So in soccer, if you win a game, you get 3 points. If you tie a game, you get 1 point. And if you lose a game, you get 0. So that kind of breaks up a little bit.
Wait.
Okay, so it's just an
So
overall
if I
score.
score 7 points in a soccer game,
You get 3 points.
I hate
You
that.
get 3 points.
No, but like
on
3 points on the
season.
leaderboard.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Like,
about it
yeah.
after. It's fine. buddy.
Like you know, Ken.
Thanks,
Okay,
Dad.
let me bring it to Ken's thing. PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
You get your score in the game, and then you put it up against everyone else.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all the way.
So that's
Thank
soccer.
you for putting into PlayStation
You're
terms.
Anyway, 0, 1, or 3.
So Tech, I'm going to give it a 0. And if you guys want to jump in, having
I would
seen
agree.
the Mad Max franchise, they're not really trying to predict anything other than saying things are dangerous.
I don't know.
which is why-
That, some of those, like, I've never seen in this world a electric guitar that can shoot fire.
so you're talking Fury Road.
Yeah, because that's still in the past, isn't it?
Yeah.
It would be, mid
It is.
mid 2000s.
It is in the past. Culture, I'd probably give it a 1 because that is the Outback and there are dangerous gangs that maybe, I don't know, maybe a 0 or a 1.
In present day, there's dangerous gangs roaming around.
BMX bandits, maybe. I dealt with them. And then world
Crocodile
events.
Dundee.
World events, I do think that there could be a gasoline shortage. It hasn't happened yet,
Unless you're
really.
in Florida.
Unless you're in Florida.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people are filling up plastic bags.
I don't
full
want
of
to talk
gas
about
right
that.
now.
It's just
So-
depressing to see. Okay, I'm going to give it a 1, though.
I would
There.
give it a 1.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's a good scoring.
So,
So
maybe,
a total of 2 points. for
Maybe
this
2
movie.
points out of 9.
Now we move forward to the year 1990. Big things are happening, including your good friend Zach is born.
Aw.
Oh,
Aw. I was thinking Tom's Diner.
how wonderful. So I guess that comes to me then. I'm going to talk about Star Trek. Now, I know what you're thinking. Star
This
Trek.
is not a Star Trek episode.
I'm not a Star Trek fan. Per se.
You're not a Trekkie.
Well, I prefer Star Wars over Star Trek. So,
Good
but
man.
I'd be happy to come on and talk Star Trek with you if you can't find anybody else.
We have a
better.
lot of volunteers,
more
right?
qualified.
You don't know how often
Yeah.
people say, if you ever do a Star Trek show, I want to be on it.
Can I not be on it?
Me too.
Can I have the week off?
All right, so I know what you're thinking. Star Trek. It takes place in like the 23rd century or something like that, right?
Yeah.
24th century.
I'll take your word for it.
Sure. As I'm watching the original series, they talk about the eugenics wars. So if you know the Wrath of Khan, the original Wrath of Khan, I can't remember if the J.J. Abrams cut and paste copy is the same timeline. But in the 1990s, according to the Star Trek lore, they had done eugenics, and so they were genetic engineering, and they were looking to create superhumans. And these superhumans try to take over the Earth. So Khan was one of these superhumans. They start World War III to kind of defeat these superhumans.
Can't start a World War III.
Yeah, with Ricardo Montalban.
So we're supposed to have World War III in the 1990s, and then that leads to the despotism in the 21st century. So the 2000s are supposed to be all about the despotism and stuff. And so in the next generation, it kind of shows these drugged up warriors with machine guns attached to their arms and things like that.
This is in Star Trek?
It's in Star Trek.
This
and
is
Star
cooler
Trek
than
The Next
anything in
Generation.
Star Trek.
So it's a little bit Star Trek Next Generation.
Okay.
So that's kind of why we're talking about it. So the timeline of Star Trek starts in the 1990s. I think in First Contact, the movie, they talk about their first warp drive was in 2069. So we're still about 50 years away from that.
Yeah, first
still time.
contact was April 5th, 2063.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're about 40, 50 years away from that still. But the other thing is that as I'm watching this, I'm thinking some of this technology is a little bit dated. So I'll start with the technology now. So on the Star Trek Starship Enterprise, we have communicators, we have tricorders, we have an AI computer that kind of runs the whole starship for them.
Yeah.
And they also have replicators and things like that. So we're not going to get into those things because those things don't really come into account until like the end of the 23rd century.
Yeah,
or something
later
like
on.
that. Yeah. So, but we can talk about communicators because they work a lot like cell phones. And even back in the 60s when this show came out, they looked a lot like flip phones, right?
Yeah.
From the early 2000s, right? And so they already kind of exist. And the tricorders, I look at those and I think those are just like a smartphone because you have this kind of mini computer that you're carrying around. And in the 1960s version of Star Trek, it's like they had this big brick of a thing that was like over the shoulder kind of a deal. And then it had a little handheld sensor reading, right? And then the last thing that I talked about, the AI computer, where you just walk in and you say, computer, do this thing. And so it's just like today, you walk into your house and you say, Alexa, turn on the lights or
Sorry about
whatever.
that. If your lights just
everybody.
turn on.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
So we already have these technologies.
Alexa,
now.
Google, Siri, etc.
It's kind of funny that a lot of these, I don't know about your guys' selections, but a lot of these movies that looked into the future did not predict cell phones at all.
Yeah.
Or they predicted them in a different way.
In a different way. But
Yeah.
there's like a lot of pay phones in these movies.
Yeah, a lot of corded phones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, Star Trek, even though they said it was hundreds of years in the future,
Right.
it's already happened.
Forgive my ignorance. Is it only in the Next Generation that they like slap their little badge to talk?
Yeah. So that's like the
That's
Bluetooth
Next
version,
Generation.
right?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, like the Apple Watch, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've got a walkie-talkie app on my watch where I can just quickly talk to somebody.
I just slap myself on the chest every time I don't want to talk to people.
my heart. So what points are we going to give this one?
Well, in terms of world events, I think I have to give this one a 0 because
'cause-
none of that stuff happened. We don't have genetically engineered
That we
superheroes.
know of.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true. I guess it could be government conspiracy stuff. But
We're working on space exploration more.
yeah, but I don't know. Are we going to have a faster than light speed travel in 50 years?
When the aliens arrive and give us that technology, then yes.
well, they're already here, according to
42
the Pentagon.
years.
So.
Okay. And then the tech itself?
The tech itself, I'm going to give it a 1
I'd agree.
because we've already got a lot of the tech. So it's a little bit ahead of schedule according to them.
Yeah.
And it might be like, did the art inspire the tech a little bit?
That's a strong argument. And then there is actually, I think, a couple documentaries about this where
How Star Trek.
Star Trek influenced a lot of like nerdy people like Star Trek, and then they turn around
Well,
and invent things.
Like the holodeck, for example, which is a next gen thing.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of a thing, sort of. It's not
VR?
quite there, but with VR.
Yeah, so VR. The thing
I'd give it a 2 with tech, honestly.
See, you say that. I'm thinking even just automatic doors.
Sure,
Like the whole
yeah.
with the door going up and coming down. That I bet you money the people that invented that were Star
Yes.
Trek fans.
I'm giving this a 2.
Giving it
There's no 2.
so the 2 is a 1.
It's
So
okay.
It's 0, 1, or a 3.
I'm giving it a 3.
3.
It's 3. Is 3 a
highest,
thing?
highest score.
Yeah, 3 is the highest score.
This is so difficult. Soccer.
This
I
is
blame
not tennis
soccer.
scores.
Oh, I give it a
give this
40
love.
love. I don't know. What about you guys? Just a 1?
I think the reason I would actually give it a higher score than just a 1, I would give it a 3 as well, is because we have seen so much of the influence of Star Trek
Yes.
in our own design. So a lot of that, again, life imitating art has come to pass.
So one of the reasons why I would give it a 1, for example, is when you look at like and they kind of fixed this in the Next Generation, but in the original series, when they talk to the computer, you can hear like the relays clicking inside the computer when it's thinking, and it has this very robotic type voice.
Yeah.
It's like working, and then like you hear like all the relays clicking.
Captain Kirk,
And
please
then-
do not take off your shirt again.
And then in like in the early one where they went up to the food replicator, they would actually put in tapes, and they say, "Well, put in this tape, and it'll give you the kind of food you want." So you had to go through the discs or whatever.
3D printing, though, for food?
Yeah, deserves
I think
They
this
do have
deserves
3D
a 3.
printed chocolate.
Yeah.
3D printed steak.
So it's okay if I get outvoted and we do it a 3. That's right.
It's your show. It's a 1. Okay. Culture.
This one's kind of harder to judge because we don't really actually see the things, but I guess we could go back on the 20th century type thing with the despotism and things like that, and the drug addicted soldiers. I know we don't have anything like that, so I'm going to give this one a 0 there as well. But
So Mad Max is more realistic than Star Trek.
Star Trek gets 1 point.
Wow.
There we go.
well,
It's harsh.
well, maybe we should go back and give it a 3.
All
for the
right,
tech.
Star Trek gets 3 points.
All right.
1 point more accurate. Moving forward, we're going to jump 7 years further into the future to the year 1997.
The year was 1997.
Old Joel.
Old Joel.
And the movie is Escape from New York,
Snake Plissken.
which was actually made in 1981. So they set their movie 16 years in the future. Here's the synopsis briefly. In 1997, when the U.S. president crashes into Manhattan, now a giant maximum security prison, a convicted bank robber is set in to rescue him. Directed by John Carpenter,
Yeah.
who sometimes doesn't do horror movies. And it stars Kurt Russell, is probably the one you'll recognize the most out of there.
Right.
So they say at the very beginning, in 1988, the crime rate in the United States rises 400%. I fact-checked this. It actually only rose by 5.5%. So they're pretty off there. And in fact, I found out that the crime rate peaked in 1981 when this movie was made,
Really?
Escape from New York. And by 1997, it was 20% lower than it was. So understandably, the crime was really bad, and they thought, okay, let's just wall off New York City. But it got better. Okay, let me read this again. The once great city of New York becomes the one maximum security prison for the entire country. A 50-foot containment wall was built around it. It's basically Arkham Asylum or Arkham City.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting out of this. So, yeah, world events, it's not doing so well. Also, there's NATO involved in a possible nuclear war with the Soviet Union because, the Soviet Union still existed in 1997. Oh, wait. The Soviet Union was dissolved in 1991. So, for world events, I'm giving this a 0. They didn't do good at all. Then you get into the tech. I'll say one thing about these futuristic movies. The helicopters always look the same.
Yeah.
It's like they have these like amazing, cool, futuristic cars, and then the helicopter looks exactly the same as helicopters now. So their helicopters were still the same. I want to point that out. Air Force One has a presidential pod that they put the president in, and that doesn't exist at all. That never
you sure?
existed. Yeah, I looked it up. I asked President Biden about it.
Okay.
Since we said the date, I can date this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But they do have a GPS locator that can also read his vitals on the president, which is now available. But in
But it wasn't then?
1997, no. They didn't really have Fitbits in 1997. And I don't know, GPS was still very rudimentary back then.
Fitbit.
Yeah. I also like they have this thing of like when they have a glider plane going through these buildings, and like it seems like all the movies made in the 70s and 80s thought that the future was going to be wireframes.
Yeah.
Everything was wireframe buildings. And I found out in this movie they actually put they built a model of a city of New York, and then put glow tape on it, and then had a black light shining on it, and that was the footage going in. I was like,
the making of is fascinating on this movie.
Yeah, it was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, the graphics and everything look very dated and definitely not 1997. I mean, we had Lawnmower Man by then, I think.
No,
And
we did not.
They also have these microscopic explosive capsules that will explode in your arteries after a dissolving wall. I don't think those exist. I'm going to give it a 1 just because the GPS locator, they were on the right track. It was something that could happen. I also say at one point they're like, it's a big blocky thing they put on his wrist. I'm like, this is a wrist tracer. It will send out a radio signal for 15 minutes.
Whoa.
And I'm like, wow, that's great.
It's good battery life.
And then for culture, at one point, there's not really much culture because it's kind of this post-apocalyptic prison city.
They're focusing on this slump, basically.
Yeah. And there's still the graffiti looks the same as it probably did in 1997, so that's good for them. But also at one point they have a play they're putting on inside the prison, and they sing about how there's no Yankees and no Met Opera, and which once again during a pandemic would have gotten more points, but in this, no.
Okay.
So 0 for that.
0
as well.
for culture. So 1 point scored for Escape from New York.
Yes.
But several stars scored because that movie rocks.
It does rock.
It's really good. Okay. All right. Moving further, we have now crossed into the new millennium. That's right. We are headed to the year 2001.
So in 2001, we have A Space Odyssey.
Oh, that's where it comes from.
Yes.
The title.
It's like it's set in the title.
Yes.
But when was this movie made?
This movie was made in 1968.
One of the larger gaps of 33 years.
Which, if you look at what he was able to do back in 1968, you'd swear this was made much later than that.
Oh, yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
Especially since we had not even been to the moon by
Well,
that point.
Kubrick did film the moon landing. Can I say
Well,
that? Is that okay to say?
Yeah, we still haven't been to the moon. What are you
we
talking
can look
about?
at the footage. As I watched this
Oh,
movie
no. What have I
again
done, Ryan? Slow down.
As I watched this movie again recently, they get to the moon.
Yeah.
I should probably back up first and tell you what the movie's about.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah.
Before
All
we go
right,
on
so-
conspiracies.
About a
So
giant
in-
space baby.
In the year 2001, they have a colony or bases on the moon. There's multiple countries with bases on the moon. And the United States base has found this monolith
Yeah.
buried under the surface of the moon. And so that...
Monolith being a big black
PlayStation 2.
rectangle.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
PlayStation terms, Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PlayStation derps.
And so they then send this monolith sent a radio signal to Jupiter when it was hit by sunlight. And so they send a spaceship out to Jupiter to go investigate. And on this spaceship, there's the HAL 9000, that we've talked about in
That is
previous
on your
episodes.
shirt currently?
Yeah, my currently on my shirt. So
Yes.
So they have this AI computer. They go to Jupiter, and then some really weird stuff happens.
I feel like as far as like the space tech they use, like we still look at that as kind of a technical marvel.
Yeah, very much. So in terms of like world events, there's not really a whole lot here. I mean, the Soviet Union, I don't think that if they call them the Soviet Union, if they just call them Russia, but there's still a rivalry there. And so I would say that that's partly true. I mean, we still have a little bit of a rivalry with the USSR.
Yeah.
Especially
Or not
the space
USSR,
race
but
kind
Russia,
of a thing.
But,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Anytime you say USSR, I think Zangief.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got Beatles songs stuck in my head.
I guess that is a little bit relevant. I mean, we still have a little bit of a rivalry with Russia, but in the space, we kind of cooperate a lot there. So in terms of tech, there's a lot of tech that they go through. They have 5 space stations, and it seems like they are open for business and leisure travel. Because as I was watching it, the one character, he sits down with some Russians, and they talk about why the U.S. base on the moon has gone dark, why they are not broadcasting, and he's worried about some kind of contagion that might be spread to the other bases on the moon. And he's like, if it was anything like that, we would disclose it, but for right now, we just got to keep it kind of under wraps or whatever. But like in the background, there's a Hilton sign.
Hey!
Yeah, for the hotel.
For Paris. Oh, yeah,
Hilton
yeah.
Day in space.
Yeah.
In space.
So I thought that was interesting. And like you said, they have these big rotating sections of their spaceships and their space stations to simulate gravity.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the same thing that's been carried on throughout, through all different kinds
Like
of
it
science
really,
fiction.
Stanley Kubrick really did set the mark
Yeah.
for space sci-fi because you had all the campy sci-fi movies that came before it,
Right.
and then you get this one, and it was so much more grounded in realism. People went, "Hey, that could actually be true."
Yeah. So talking about the moon, getting back to that, when they walk on the moon, it doesn't look anything like the Apollo mission video. So that to me says that we did run on the moon. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
We didn't walk on the moon. We ran.
Yeah. Well,
Conspiracies.
we jumped, and they don't jump and bounce like they do in space. In 2001: A Space Odyssey, they just kind of walk. So.
We didn't know it was 1968.
So yeah, space, moon bases and everything, and then from there they get onto the interplanetary ship, and on the interplanetary ship they have tablets like iPads,
What?
and they have the HAL 9000 computer and AI,
Yeah.
like we said, and he can turn on the lights and he can rotate things and open doors for you. So a little bit more advanced version of Alexa or Siri,
Yeah.
right?
So it was maybe 10 to 15 years too early.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like the iPad came out in like 2007.
Yeah.
And Siri came out in 2009. So he's about 8 years too early.
But I'll give him I don't know. It almost seems like it's still precursor. I don't know. It's hard to rank that. But
Yeah. So and then missions to Mars, for example, like interplanetary travel. So NASA's not scheduled to do interplanetary travel till 2030 for manned missions. We're not quite there yet. Culture, though, it's very 1960s. It's like they got
Oh, is
stuck.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
most of these do, like you notice the hairstyles and the
Yeah.
clothing.
Yep.
They're trying to
Cars.
make it future, but it's pretty obvious it's like 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of stuck in the 60s, and so on that one I'm going to give it a 0. But in terms of tech, it's at least a 1. I think I'm going to go 3 because 5 years from like a tablet from way back in 1960s.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive. So
Okay.
I mean, we weren't doing that back in 2001, but
yeah.
Shortly thereafter.
yeah, pretty shortly after.
So
And then world events, what'd you give it?
world events. I mean, it's not nothing here, so I'll just give it a 1 because it's
Kind of a neutral.
it's kind of neutral.
So far, the most accurate then at 4. 4 points. All right, let's move forward. A big jump into the future from here, from the year 2001 to the year 2002.
All right, so this one's me again.
Oh, hi.
Hey. So this is the movie Metropolis.
Metropolis.
This is a
The
silent
movie
I've
Metropolis.
never seen it.
Oh my gosh, we're doing our silent movie show.
I know.
We're doing our
I've
silent
always
movie
meant
show.
to watch
It's going to
it.
be a real quiet show.
I'm going to give you guys a sampler platter. You will watch them.
Yeah, you'll have to do some reading. Yeah.
Metropolis is good, guys.
Is it?
I mean, any silent movie is going to be in a kind of, you have to adapt to watching a silent movie. But this one, if you let yourself enjoy it,
And I
really
know
will.
like the cover and the iconic robot and everything like that. But
Yeah.
just, never seen it.
So yeah, the robot, the mechanical man, is the one that inspired C-3PO's aesthetics.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, this is actually the first robot shown on film. Like we said, this is from the 1927, and I don't know who the director is. I forget.
Fritz Lang.
I think so.
Yeah.
Bless you.
So it's set in the year 2000, and what you have in terms of culture is very much a Marxian type worldview, where you have the proletariat that lives in the undercity, and then you have the wealthy aristocrats that live up in the bright, shiny city. And it's supposed to be this glorious kind of. I mean, it's kind of hard to depict in 1927. They have like
Right,
a painting, and then there's like
Yeah.
maybe one model of an airplane or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to tell what's going on.
1927, man. Give them a break.
Yeah, but
They're doing matte paintings.
yeah. So it's supposed to be like this really high tech society, but then underneath is the proletariat, the plebeians who are
Doing all the work.
Doing all the
pulling all the
work.
levers, turning
Yeah.
all the wheels.
So this is kind of the funny thing in terms of technology of the city is they have this very fancy city, but everything is done by manual labor, and so you have people down there moving the clock positions to make the machine go for the people up above. In terms of that, I would say not very accurate.
Right.
This movie wins for best aesthetic, though, because it's
Yeah.
all Art Deco. And
We're not
cool.
giving points for best aesthetic.
Well, I'm giving it a bonus
So
point.
we should
of
talk
awesome.
about the robot. So the mechanical man is the ability to take the place of a human. So it's like the life model decoys, I think is the Marvel term for it.
yeah, it looks like a robot at first, but then it takes the
Yeah.
form of a woman.
So yeah, and the reason for
Wait, the
that
mechanical man becomes a woman?
is, yes,
yes.
Okay.
yeah. And the reason for that is so that they can take the leader of the proletariat, the person that's kind of rising them up, right, and disgrace her name. So they substitute this robot in, and she goes running around the city causing a muck and doing things that make her look
Dancing
bad.
inappropriately.
Yes. So
Movies from the 20s.
You should see it.
it's like the first thing they thought to do is put on a film. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of that technology, definitely a 0.
Okay.
Because we are nowhere near having a robot that is capable of fooling humans at this point. I mean, the closest one that they have is that kind of creepy looking one.
Yeah. That she does interviews and stuff.
Yeah, and like they think they try to get her to citizenship in some Middle Eastern country or something like that. But you can tell that she's not.
She's
doing
so creepy.
You
Yeah.
look at it and you're like, something ain't right there.
it. Yeah, exactly. So
It's that uncanny valley.
yeah, and then the way that the city runs is also not very accurate.
1927, man.
Yeah.
So you're
They
saying
didn't have deodorant back then.
you're saying 0 points.
I'm
Maybe they
saying
had deodorant.
0
I should-
points.
I award you no points. Okay.
Except for the
Yeah.
bonus point.
Except for the bonus aesthetic point from me.
Yeah.
Which is worthless, but it's there. Okay, full 0 points here. God, man, they
Fritz
didn't.
Lang's classic Metropolis.
But
Yeah, I don't need to watch it
But
anymore.
we're going for realism, not quality
Yeah.
of movie.
that was the biggest gap, though. So
That's a huge gap.
yeah.
73 years on the gap. All right, now we move to 2004.
Time Cop.
Yeah.
So, gutsy move here by director Peter Hyams.
Sure.
He made this movie in 1994, set it 10 years in the future. This is one of the smallest gaps that we have here, where he's like, yeah, here in a decade.
Could have gone 20 years or something.
He could have. So here's the synopsis. Max Walker, I got to read this like a time cop. Max Walker, an officer for a security agency that regulates time travel, must fend for his life against a shady politician who's intent on changing the past to control the future.
What people don't know is he was doing the splits on a kitchen table while reading that.
I was.
Yeah.
I only done.
Just like Jean-Claude.
Because Jean-Claude Van Damme stars in it. Also Mia Sara. Sloane
Yeah,
Peterson
yeah.
from Ferris Bueller. One of her few other roles that I enjoy seeing her in. So this one's kind of weird because it's all based on something that didn't happen.
Right.
This is all time travel. Because even, I think the movie...
Do they explain how time travel came to be?
Not really. The beginning of the movie, I think it starts in 1997 or something like that. When he's... Maybe it starts in 1994. But there's someone who's appointed to the Time Enforcement Commission.
Oh, sure.
TEC.
Yeah.
And then it flashes forward a little years later, and they have time cops who are going around and making sure people don't go mess up the past and ruin the future. World events, it really just the creation of Time Enforcement Commission. There's not much going on there. So I'm going to give that one a 0.
Are you sure? Yeah.
I couldn't think of that. But here's the fun thing. So like tech, they have a self-driving electric car.
What?
Nice.
So self-driving and electric, two things. But it looks like a toy, like an 80s toy with like you put stickers on the side of it when you get it. It looks terrible.
Teslas look like
Yeah, the
toys,
Tesla
too.
truck, right?
It looks worse than that. Like
Okay.
it's weird, and it's also voice controlled. The car is. So it's like go home. So it's kind of a GPS plus self-driving car, which
gets points.
Yeah, although we don't have the technology even today of voice activation that could understand Jean-Claude Van Damme. So, take me home. That was Arnold. Anyway, but no, obviously I was impressed with that. They do have flat screen TVs, which is good.
Are they HD?
Well, they have CRT TVs as well,
Okay.
and they're playing videotapes. So
That was still kind of a thing in 2004.
it was. They have audio tapes that look like little Game Boy cartridges. Like it's not a tape, but it's still a tape. What else? Let me look here. That's all tech stuff. Oh, they have VR helmets. So point for that.
Yeah.
So I was actually surprised how much they got right, but I'm still only going to give them a 1 because the whole thing revolves around
Time travel. Yeah.
Which doesn't happen. Also, they rarely bring up the internet. It's like there's no internet back then and it's supposed to be 2004, which internet was around.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dock them sincerely for this because there is not one mention of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, which came out that year and uses time travel. They should have been talking about that all the time
True.
in that
It was
world.
a huge deal.
So,
So even though they have a time machine, they should talk about their favorite Harry Potter
there should have
movie.
been one reference to a time turner or Hermione or like, wow, I got to be
Potter
careful.
movie.
Hey, you want to go save Buckbeak? Something like that, but nothing. So I'm giving them a 0 for world events, a 1 for tech, and a 0 for culture.
Wow.
Time Cop.
1 point for Time Cop.
It seems like you're being awfully harsh on it because they didn't reference Harry Potter.
It hurt me personally.
Apparently.
Okay, now we move forward one more year to 2005.
So this one is Bicentennial Man.
I purposely have never watched this movie.
Starring Rob. I've never seen it either.
Yeah.
I've seen it. A movie you guys haven't.
All right.
Yeah, but like we never wanted to.
Getting on that now.
So this one's directed by Christopher Columbus, and it stars Robin Williams.
I think he goes by Chris Columbus.
He directed the first Harry Potter
Chris
movie.
Columbus.
And the second one, I think.
So
Yeah.
it's directed by Chris Columbus, and it's starring Robin Williams. Oh, and Sam Neill. He makes it.
Sam Neill's in it.
He's in it for about half the movie.
Oliver Platt. Is that his name?
Oliver
Oh,
Platt.
the
yeah.
90s were a good time for Oliver Platt.
Yes, they were.
Porthos.
Yes.
Wait, you remember his name?
In Three Musketeers?
Yeah.
Three Musketeers.
Okay.
Athos, Porthos, and Aramis.
All right,
And
so
D'Artagnan.
Bicentennial Man.
You always forget
Bicentennial.
D'Artagnan.
All right, so this one has another robot. So in this case, we have a common household appliance, a robot butler that everybody seems to have, according to the
Well, they had
dialogue.
it in Rocky 4. So
Happy birthday, Polly.
Yeah. So for this one is one that's a biped, so it means that it walks along on 2 legs, very adroitly, I would say, for a robot.
Adroitly forward Android.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, though, this is set in 2005, though.
Yes.
Not now.
2005.
Well, it's set over the course of 200 years.
Yes.
True.
Starting in 2005 and ending in
Yeah.
2205.
He turns 200, but
It's late.
the first portion of the movie
Or early.
does take place in 2005.
is this like AI where it's really depressing because he sees everyone he loves dies?
No.
Oh, it's not? Is it just a nice Robin Williams comedic romp?
No.
It's not quite that either.
What is it?
It's nondescript.
We're not reviewing the movie. We're reviewing the future.
Yeah, it's a little boring at parts.
I gotta
sometimes.
be honest, I'm not sure what the point of this movie is, but I like it.
Yeah, it's Pinocchio becomes a real boy.
Yeah.
That's basically what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, okay.
So it's like AI. Okay.
So it is like AI, but not quite as gloomy.
Dour. Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Not as Kubrick.
outside of the robot, we have a car. When you sit in the car, it tells you the traffic, it tells you the weather, it tells you your heart rate, it tells you all sorts of things. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe like 2007-ish, we have
Yeah.
smartphones and like
The watches.
And the
So
watches.
My watch does a lot of that.
But that's now.
But that's now.
Yeah,
In
so that's-
2005, not so, or yeah, 2005, not so much.
2005, not so much. I think we're still rocking the flip phones in 2005. So.
Right.
I didn't even have a phone yet.
Yeah, we didn't have it. We didn't have the smartphones until 2007.
You couldn't drive yet.
Right.
That's true.
And as you kind of mentioned before, like not having cell phone technology, really, I think it shows him at one point where he does use a payphone.
Yeah.
And this is like the year 2048 or something like
Yeah,
that.
far into the future, he's
Yeah.
using a payphone.
Yeah.
I
When
wonder
you
if
see it, you
payphones
gotta
were a
think of it.
sponsor to all these movies. Just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah, probably.
I think they died after that one movie,
Phone booth?
Phone Booth. Yeah.
It probably was.
Yeah.
There was like, I'm not
That
getting one of
was,
those
that
again.
was anti-payphone propaganda.
Yeah. And then
Anti-payphone propaganda was a band's name, maybe?
Oh, no, we've never done that.
No.
Not with big payphone out there.
another technology is electric cars. So like when they get to the year 20, whatever, it's like 2025 or something like that. They get electric cars and electric motorcycles. There doesn't take any really big risks with like world events or anything like that. So it's pretty bland that way.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely. The story itself keeps really self-contained.
Yeah. In terms of world events, we'll give it a 1 because it's kind of bland. In terms of culture, I'm going to also give it a 1. I mean, it's only a 6-year jump from when it was filmed in 1999 or when it was released 1999 to 2005. But in terms of technology, I'm going to have to give it I want to give it a 0 because we don't have...
There's nothing close. The main point of this movie is the robots. And we don't have
robot
anything
butler.
like
We
that.
don't have anything like
But
that.
the car
Roomba? Anyone?
doesn't have legs. Not bipedal.
Yeah. And he can't...
Oh.
And it doesn't look like a robot Robin Williams.
Oh.
Yeah, so...
So you're going to give it a 0 in tech.
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
going to have to give it a 0 just because the main tech is that big, is the robot that can walk around, wash your dishes, do whatever you want.
Sure.
Give it any kind of command you want. And
All right, so you give 2 points to this one.
yeah.
All right. Now we're going to move forward a couple more years to the year 2012.
2012.
This next movie is my first
Who
opportunity
calls
to
it
talk about a movie.
2012?
Everybody did at the time.
Yeah, because the end of the Mayan calendar. And it's,
Because you said 2012.
I call it 2012.
2012?
Yeah.
The Mayans didn't call it that.
What did they call it?
2012.
Are you sure?
That I can't remember the movie. I watched one of the movies and they referred to it as like, oh yeah, in 2016, and I'm like, nobody says that. They said 2016.
I said 2016.
You're one of the only.
You're an old.
You're an old. No. This is my first opportunity, and this is actually, I believe, our shortest gap on the list. This movie is I Am Legend. Came out in 2000.
Speaking of Will Smith.
Speaking of Will Smith. Came out in 2007. It's set in 2012. So a 5-year gap there. And the summary of this one.
You're telling me we're not talking about 2012 in 2012?
No.
That's fine.
No, different thing.
That's fine.
The cure for cancer turns the world's population into bad CGI. So this is years after a plague kills most of humanity and transforms the rest into monsters. The sole survivor in New York City struggles valiantly to find a cure. So the least believable part of this is that Will Smith is the smartest doctor in town, or scientist, or whatever he is.
Sure.
Yeah. So this, as far as
Dr. Fauci.
yeah, as far as that's where we kind of go into the world events side of this. This is where what's her name? Emma Thompson discovers the cure for cancer, and they start administering this, and then it starts this global pandemic that either kills a bunch of people or turns them into these, living dead type of
Curse you,
Vampire.
I've heard about vampires is what they're actually, but we'll
in
see.
the book, they're vampires.
Yeah.
So they're
short
because they're
story.
not zombies. They aren't undead. So they're more zombie monster creatures. So if we look at that, I mean, we can at least give a little bit of consideration to a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Right. That we've experienced one of those before.
But this is 2012.
But this is 2012. But even then, there was a pandemic in 1918. I mean,
but not 2012.
that's true. But I'm just saying, the pandemic side of it, okay. But the direct, how far it goes, you definitely don't see that happening. Now, if we look at tech, the interesting thing here is the tech itself, it doesn't really advance. So we have 2007 tech. So much so that featured in this movie heavily is a 2007 Shelby GT500 in race red. That's my favorite tech of the whole movie.
I bet.
Yeah, it was great.
Where's he getting his gas from?
There's nobody else using gas.
But gas goes bad.
It's only been 5 years.
Don't worry about
I
it.
know.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. But beyond that, you see tech that's realistic in where he's doing the science experiments on the various creatures that he captures. But overall, tech-wise, you don't really see much that you wouldn't see at the time. So technically, it's accurate.
Gas has a shelf life of months, guys. I just looked it up.
That's it?
Yeah, 3 to 6 months. You lose combustibility. And then
He's
ethanol
the
gasoline
smartest
blends
scientist, Joel.
have short of the 2 to 3 months.
Will
ethanol
Smith
gas.
is a genius.
There's stabilizers you can put in it. It's fine.
So he can make stabilizers
Yeah.
now, too.
No, you can get him at AutoZone.
He's very smart.
Oh.
It's fine. It's fine. So culture-wise here, I mean, you have a last man on earth situation. I mean, you have, he's the only guy left. But then it turns into sort of a Castaway thing where he's like talking to Wilson, but it's mannequins instead.
Yep.
That's believable. But
Well, if you're going crazy,
yeah.
kind of is.
Overall, I would give it. I mean, I don't know where to score this in tech. I don't know. What do you guys think?
It seems like it didn't really try to
tech,
be.
so I don't want to
I'd say
reward
0.
it because it didn't really push any boundary. But world events, I'm going to give it a 1 for the pandemic, and culture, I'm going to give it a 1 because Will Smith.
But what did this movie predict?
This movie, what did it predict?
The Batman Superman movie.
Batman v
did.
Superman. That's true.
Yeah, even though it was meant to come out by 2012.
Brandon Routh versus Christian Bale.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I don't know.
about
Parallel
that.
dimension.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it a point for world events and a point for culture, but no point for tech because it didn't.
2
it didn't-
points.
Didn't have
Didn't try.
anything to say. Now we move forward to what's probably the most fun on this entire list, the year 2015.
I know what movie it is.
Back to the Future Part 2. Yeah. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I remember when 2015 hit, October 20-something, 22nd,
yeah.
2015, I think it is. But I remember there was like, they had a USA Today that printed the exact USA Today on the front
Yeah.
cover that they did. It's a kind of a gimmick thing. I have a copy of that. And we wore our pants inside out that day just for fun. Like, it was a fun day of celebration because everyone was all like,
Yeah.
2015.
I wore.
Didn't they even make those shoes as well?
I think they
Nike
did. I
had
think
some
they did.
special edition
Yeah.
shoes. I wore 2 ties that day.
Oh, nice.
After visiting 2015, Marty McFly must repeat his visit to 1955. But that's not the part that we're looking at.
No.
We're looking at, so the first part of Back to the Future Part 2, if you haven't seen it for some reason, he goes into the future 30 years, which the movie is set in
It's a
1985.
nice round number.
Though this movie did come out in 1989. But anyway, he goes into the future 30 years to 2015. This one made a lot of predictions about tech.
They swung
Yeah.
for the fences on this one.
Because what happened was, as far as I'm aware with this movie, they, at the end of Back to the Future, were just like, I don't know, we're going to go into the future because we're never going to make another one of these. And then they're like, oh, shoot, now we have to make a 2015.
Yeah.
Because it was really successful. So, some things that this movie predicted as far as tech goes are including, but not limited to, flying cars, garbage-based fusion, hoverboards that actually hover, barcode license plates on the back of your car, self-drying jackets, rejuvenation clinics that take literal years off of your face, drone photographers and drone dog walkers, hologram movies, pull-down TV screens that roll up, picture-in-picture television, communication or TV headsets, video calls, tablets, 5-second fax machine boxes instead of post office boxes. So many fax machines in every home.
Yep.
Hydrating pizza cookers,
Yep.
thumbprint door locks and voice activated lights, and flying orthopedic machines. Or what is it? No.
Yeah. It's holding George McFly upside down.
Yeah. Is it orthopedic? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
sure.
Anyway.
Bones.
There we go.
Bones.
So, just a
ortho
few of
means
the
bone.
things that it
Are
talks
you
about.
going to hold it back because of because we don't have hoverboards? Are you mad at it?
No.
Because they did get a lot of things right.
I would fall off a hoverboard so fast. I'm not mad we don't have those.
You're not.
I haven't touched a skateboard in years.
But hoverboards.
If we talk about, the tech, we can talk a little bit more about that, but just quickly looking at world events, this one's not going to score great because lawyers have been abolished, weather is super accurate, and holograms are just everywhere.
That Jaws,
None of that has happened.
That Jaws, whatever it is,
19 or-
Jaws 19 hologram that comes out and bites him. It looked so like
Really
that
bad.
technology does exist, but it
Yeah.
still looked boxy and
Yeah.
terrible.
It looked horrible.
But
it had
at
like
the same
3
time,
polygons.
I would, if a movie looked like that but still had that effect, I would go see it. 3D without the glasses, yes.
Well, and we talk about around 2015 and a couple years prior too, 3D movies were
the rage.
all the rage.
Yeah.
And they have since died off, thank goodness. But 3D movies were huge, and so I mean that's pretty accurate. Frankly, there's a lot that they got pretty close.
have the Cubs won the World Series?
Yes. They won in
2015?
They won in 2016.
Oh,
They went. They won the next year. So that was always really hilarious.
That's cool.
Do you have to give it a 3?
Well,
I honestly, this is the first one that I'm like, I think this one gets a 3 because they
But flying
accidentally
cars.
and jokingly got it. The only thing is like flying cars. Obviously, that's a big
Hoverboards.
one. That flying cars and hoverboards, but beyond
self-drying
that,
jackets. Your jacket is now dry.
Your jacket is now dry.
and clothes that adjust to fit you whatever size.
I have a ratcheting belt.
Oh well.
It's
any
the
size
future.
that I
you have
need
it in
to be.
2015.
But do your
Yeah.
shoes tie themselves?
I mean, I wear Vans
self-tying
slip-ons.
laces, far out.
That's like a baby's toy.
You gotta use your hands.
Anyway, I think that there's a lot of cool tech here. It's just so iconic,
Yeah.
this tech. with the TVs, right? So you know how they have like the pole shade TVs? LG has actually made a TV that rolls into a box. It's an OLED panel. You can literally roll a TV.
Wow.
Okay.
Not even a projector. It's a TV.
It's an actual TV.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's a lot here.
Do they have dehydrated pizza though?
Oh, you can get it.
Hydrate level 4, please.
It's like those military ration packs. Just
add
hydrate it
water.
back up.
But it's like a small pizza and that turns into a large, amazing looking pizza.
I mean, it could
You want
be
to
a
give it a
thing.
3, right?
I want to
You're
give it
pretty
a 2.
excited.
When
If
I showed-
2001 Space Odyssey gets a 3.
When I showed my kids this, I ordered, I think it is Pizza Hut in the movie. I
Yes.
ordered from Pizza Hut with half peppers, half pepperoni. Like
Nice.
green peppers, pepperoni, just like they did in the movie. It's a little theme we did that night.
I'm giving it a 3. You guys can fight me on it. And then culture-wise, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, those glasses, the sunglasses they wear are pretty cool without lenses. They just have like the stripes. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
They
the-
gave them for free at Pizza Hut.
I had the pink and yellow
Center shade.
spiky
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
I mean, I think culture-wise, it's fairly similar with like a utopian touch. But overall, I mean, I don't think it has anything to say
No.
on culture, so I wouldn't give it any points there. And world events, I don't really think there's anything going on that
Cubs win the World Series.
comes in the World
Yeah.
Series. There you go. I'll give it a point for that.
I don't know. I think you could probably give it a point for culture too, because it's not like way off.
Fair enough. 5 points. Back to the Future.
All right.
Is that the leader
Part 2.
now?
Yeah, it is. You know what else I really like? Just general oppression. So we're staying in 2015.
Just general
oppression. With the movie V for Vendetta. Now, I chose to talk about this one, but Kent, why is this on the list?
There's some government overreach in this one.
Well, there is a.
Gonna dance around on this one a little bit.
This one also.
Keep it light and fluffy, fellas.
This one also features a pandemic in the opening.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
And this is set in 2015.
Set in 2015.
And
yes.
what year was it made?
It was made in 2005, so 10 years in the future. In a future British tyranny, a shadowy freedom fighter, known only by the alias V, plots to overthrow it with the help of a young woman.
I always called him 5.
Oh, dang it. You read the book.
5 for Vendetta.
5 from yeah, I didn't know.
This movie, as far as world events go, it does have a second civil war in the U.S., even though this is set in the U.K., as mentioned, a pandemic situation. But as we look at tech, honestly, there's not, kind of like I Am Legend, there's not much technological advancement. There's just utilization of really existing tech. You have citywide speakers that are used by the overreaching government. There are like thumbprint scanners at one point on the door. Just really large video screens featuring John Hurt.
Yeah.
But again,
We have those. Those are everywhere.
oh yeah,
Large video
Featuring
screens with
John Hurt.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. So
Ollivander and Harry Potter.
technology here is not very advanced. So again, for the same kind of the same thing with I Am Legend, they don't really have anything that they want to say there. But as far as like communication goes, I think that's interesting where it's the government is utilizing all of the communication devices to talk to the people. And so that's kind of, you look at what's happened with
Are
our
they
culture.
tracking people at all? Are they spying on people?
Yeah, there's total spying.
Okay.
Yeah, which, Edward Snowden could tell us more about
Keep
that.
it light and fluffy.
But yeah, as far as the culture goes, you've got the totalitarian curfews, the government enforcers, and aside, you could maybe look at some of the stuff that's happened in the last year with regards to curfews and things like that with our pandemic situation in the real world, where some of that's plausible.
Yeah.
Now, as far as 2015 goes, it wasn't, but it could have been. So overall, I'd probably give this maybe no points for tech because it doesn't really do anything, but I don't know, it's not far off. Is it unfair to not give it any points?
Well,
No.
I think you'd give it 1 point.
It's pretty close to the second Civil War. I mean, that hasn't happened, but it's just a few years away from people feeling like there would be.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. World events, I kind of want to give this a 1 across the board.
Yeah.
Just an even 3 points, just because it's not far off. It's total plausible, and it could have been a decent prediction of a future that could exist.
Well, kind of in defense of these post-apocalyptic movies where there's not a lot of tech differences, I think innovation is going to be stifled in an environment like that. So where you have an overreaching government, totalitarian governments, the innovation tends to stop. You can just kind of look at the Hugo in Soviet Russia and kind of see that there is no innovation in totalitarian governments or post-apocalyptic where there's limited resources. So
Right.
technology is going to stifle, but I mean, that doesn't really it's not as fun.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Speaking of fun, let's move forward to the year 2017. Joel?
Running Man.
Yeah.
Or The Running Man, I should say. This movie was made in 1987, and it's set 30 years in the future. It's in the year 2017, and here's a synopsis. In a dystopian America, a falsely convicted policeman gets his shot at freedom when he must forcibly participate in a TV game show where convicts and runners must battle killers for their freedom. And this stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is one where I did not realize it was set currently in the past. Meaning, like, I was like, that happened before? Because I always picture like this far, far future when I first saw it way back in the day. So I'm just going to read this. This is kind of the opening crawl. Just going to read it.
Okay.
Go
right ahead.
Not make any commentary. By 2017, the world economy has collapsed. Food, natural resources, and oil are in short supply. A police state divided into paramilitary zones rules with an iron hand. Television is controlled by the state, and a sadistic game show called The Running Man has become the most popular program in history. All art, music, and communications are censored. No dissent is tolerated. And yet a small resistance movement has managed to survive underground. So no comment. I'm just going to give that a 1.
Sure. Oh, just a 1. Okay.
Because there was some stuff in there that wasn't true. There's some stuff that probably could be true.
Well, the way reality TV is kind of, I'm not taken over, but it's one of the few things that actually gets ratings.
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, this is world events. We'll get to there in culture. In fact, we can jump there now. Yes, and even in 2017, I think reality TV has kind of gone a little less popular now.
Yeah.
But you think 2017, just a couple years ago, people were watching tons of reality TV, I feel.
Yeah, and people suffer on The Bachelor just like they suffer in The Running Man, right?
Yes. However, they did predict that Richard Dawson would be hosting this show. He died in 2012, so he didn't quite make it there.
Was it Richard Dawson in the movie, or did he play a character?
I think they call him Dawson.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
And he's totally the Family Feud type guy.
Did he try to kiss Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, he kissed the contestant. No, he's like, I'm going to get a kiss right here.
Of course he did.
It's totally true. Also, another culture thing that didn't get quite right is Adidas was everywhere. Everything was Adidas. I don't think Adidas is as popular anymore.
Huh. They definitely sponsored the movie.
Yes, they did. Also, they use $6 in change on the soda machine. They talk about, these are out of control. Do you have another quarter? And they're pumping in quarters for $6. And I was like, you got that wrong on 2 counts.
Yeah.
Soda cans are not that expensive yet. And no one uses change in machines anymore. And then also, everybody loves Sub-Zero. But different Sub-Zero.
Yes.
Yes, because there's a character named Sub-Zero in this movie. He's a hockey player. He has like a razor blade hockey stick. He's not, doesn't do anything cool like, the Mortal Kombat guy.
Did American Gladiators air at around the same time when this movie was made?
I was actually going to bring that up.
Okay.
So after all this was made in 1987. American Gladiators aired in 1989.
What?
So that wasn't a prediction they made, but there's a definite influence there.
Yeah.
Because in the movie, they have the audience has their favorites. Like, I want to see Buzzsaw. I want to see Sub-Zero. Like, they wanted to see these ones, and they were excited when they're. But then American Gladiators, I was always like, Nitro was the coolest.
Yeah, Nitro was the coolest.
What about
And
Laser? Come
Laser
on.
was cool, too.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's funny to hear, to see that connection there. Let's get into tech a little bit here, because they also kind of swung for the fences, but I think they missed more than they got. The targeting systems we talked about, very 80s looking, like these wire frames and pixels. Like, there's a part where they're flying over in a helicopter, which helicopters, hey, still look the same. But in 2017, they're flying over this crowd, and it's just a bunch of pictures. They're like approximately 1,500 civilians. And I'm like, you can't tell that.
Is that Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. The prisoners, they have explosive collars, which I don't think that's a thing. I think you can make one, but definitely not the way they had it. These little thin ones with like a perimeter fence. Not used. They did use numbered keypads on apartment doors, which is a thing people do now. Instead of keys, they can have a keypad. I give them a point for that. There's voice-activated lights. At one point, she says, lights on, coffee maker, toaster, TV, and they all start turning on and doing their thing. And I'm like, you totally do that. They still use corded phones for the most part, which was funny to me. There's one part where it's a cordless phone, but most of them are corded. They still have cassette tape collections. He pulls them out. They're still using cash. They have barcode travel passes where it's just a travel pass you just scan and you can travel places because travel's limited in this world. But they do book flights to Hawaii online. Like he just kind of does it on the computer. So I was like, okay, good for you. Metal detectors look the same. They have these net guns to catch criminals, which I found out do exist, which is kind of cool. And then at one point, they try to be futuristic when he talks about how they were looking through videotapes and bubble chips.
Okay.
So I don't know what bubble chips are. I looked it up.
I want to try them.
They looked delicious. But here's the thing I wanted to bring up is one thing that got kind of interesting is video manipulation and deep fakes. Because there's a part when they want Arnold
you're
Schwarzenegger's
right.
character to do something, and they want one of the hunters. No, what do they call them? Not runners. It's the other one. I can't remember
Like
what
the
they're
chasers or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like that. But the one of the bad guys, and they want him to fight, but he doesn't want to get all suited up and fight Arnold Schwarzenegger. So they end up they take this fight between these two other people, and they put Arnold Schwarzenegger's face and Jesse Ventura's face on these two characters, and then kill them on TV. And it's like, this is how the battle went. Totally manipulated and deep faked. And I thought,
What?
that's actually happening. Like at one point they say to put up the digital mat, and they like remove the background behind him and change it. And I'm like, this is totally stuff that's happening today.
Yep.
And even in 2017, deepfakes maybe not as much, but this was the thing they could do, was video manipulation.
Right.
Anyway, I was going to, like, they have a bunch of other stuff I could talk about, but I'm just going to talk about those. And you know what? I'm going to give Tech, I'm going to give him a 3.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Would you watch that show?
Do you watch Survivor?
Well, people don't die on Survivor. This is like that. People were like bloodthirsty, and it was really
I think
weird
on
to see.
relative race they die, and so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the most gritty of all reality
Indeed.
shows.
What did you give it for culture?
So this was a
Culture, I'm giving him a 3 as well.
the Hunger Games before the Hunger Games, right? This movie.
Only because the obsession with reality TV and what it could become. Although I guess this is. No, I'm going to give it a 1 because it just I'm dropping it because it has not got that far. It's an allusion to what has happened in 2017, but it wasn't spot on.
it's too
so
bad.
I'm dropping that down.
That was about to be a bold prediction.
yeah,
of
yeah,
saying
I
the Running
couldn't do
Man
it.
is the most accurate.
No.
Okay. So that one has scored 5 points.
Wow. So does that tie with
That ties for our highest right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh man.
You go. Well, Kent, it's been a minute since we've heard from
Oh, hey,
you.
how's it going?
How you do? How you been
Yeah,
over there,
pretty good,
buddy?
pretty good. Just waiting for my turn.
Let's
you
jump
know?
forward to the year 2019.
A Blade Runner must pursue and terminate 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator.
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner, not the soon-to-be dated Blade Runner 2049.
Save for our 2049 prediction show.
Yeah, in season. Yep, not even going to try math right
Math!
now. Not good at math. So Blade Runner made in 1982, set in 2019. So just 2 years ago. Man, 2019 was a good year. I mean, it was just, I think we were ready to say bye to it. It wasn't great, but it was better. It was just better.
Well, hindsight is 22.
And so Blade Runner gets more wrong than they do right. For example, creating replicants.
Yeah.
These are basically super-powered clones of sorts that they send, and in this movie there are off-world colonies, and so they send these replicants to be basically under servitude, and if they are found here on Earth, they are killed by Blade Runners, like Deckard. Like handsome Harrison Ford, because he's super handsome in this movie.
This is peak Harrison Ford.
Yeah, it really is.
Whoa. Star Wars, anyone? Indiana Jones?
No.
Peak
Come
Harrison
on.
Ford handsome.
No, this is like rugged Harrison Ford.
Indiana Jones.
Okay, he's super handsome in that movie, but there's something about Deckard that is just it's prime.
Because he's a replicant.
What? You're going there?
I could.
Save it for the Blade Runner show.
Okay.
Have one of those.
Yeah, I mean, so I watched this one again last night. It had been a few years. I watched Blade Runner Final Cut
I was going to say, what version?
because I looked it up because obviously I want to know I'm watching the right version because there's a few where he has voiceover and whatnot. But Final Cut was just under 2 hours, which is kind of nice. But this movie did not anticipate cell phones. Obviously, we don't have off-world colonies as far as I know. And a lot of these sponsors in this movie are Pan Am, which doesn't exist. Bell Telephones doesn't exist. Atari is that really
They
a
don't
thing
exist.
anymore?
The Ataris do.
And also, there are flying cars and shuttles in this movie, but not everyone has them. It seems like they're more either government vehicles or cop cars. Because it didn't seem like everyone had a flying car. This movie is more anime in style. Like,
Yeah.
it's like Neo Tokyo, basically.
Yeah.
And so
A lot of lights.
a lot of lights.
Yeah.
These are overpopulated cities. It takes place in Los Angeles. It's overly smoggy and covered in larger-than-life billboards on the side of buildings, which are moving billboards.
It's a 3.
It's kind of
That's pretty
3, right?
accurate.
I mean, I don't know how LA was back in 1982. Probably pretty smoggy. But this one, it looks more like a New
nighttime.
York scape rather than LA.
Yeah.
But it's just poisoned, basically. And they even bring up the fact that homes are so expensive that if you can find somewhere to squat, you're sitting pretty, basically. So
That's not inaccurate.
not at all.
Of now, but when is this set?
Yeah, this is set in 2019.
Totally different world.
Not at all. And I guess with the world events, it doesn't predict much other than the fact that there are replicants, but corporations are prime. And that's what I see in a lot of these future movies is corporations are bigger than the government. I would say for the tech, the things they got right. I did talk about the things they got wrong. The things they got right are talking crosswalks, facial recognition, and digital parking meters, which didn't exist in 1982.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
They don't have flying cars, obviously, unfortunately, or super-powered.
Future movies keep swinging for that fence.
Yeah, they
keep
really
going,
do.
Let's get those flying cars.
I mean, they should have at this point, right?
I think it's an easy way for a movie to feel futuristic.
We're the future.
Yeah.
I do want to give it a 1. How do you guys feel about tech?
Yeah.
Tech
Sounds
for a
good.
1? Sounds great.
Because with the billboards and everything, advertising is everywhere. And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, we can't make replicants. We don't have like genetically
Right.
put together robots, so I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely gets a lot of things wrong, which I would just give it a 1. World events, it doesn't really try to predict much other than the fact that corporations are very powerful. I'd probably give it a 0 because even in the 80s, that was the case.
Yeah.
And then as far as culture, I think it's just like cities are overcrowded and gigantic. It is kind of like slum-based as well.
Yeah. I think
I
it might
don't-
deserve a point, but
I don't know, though, because like that doesn't feel like you don't... I guess, I don't know. I don't live in those areas.
It
but
is
doesn't
very
feel like that.
multicultural, like in these big cities, and they definitely make a point of that. Kind of want to give it a 1. I think it would feel wrong to give it a 0.
Okay.
it's fine. I got
Okay.
you.
Fair.
So 2 points scored for Blade Runner. Let's stay in the year 2019. Joel,
Let's.
what do you have?
The Island. This is my island in the sun. So this was made in 2005.
Peak Johansson, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
McGregor.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So this was made in
Peak
2005. Peak Buscemi. It's peak everyone. They all look good.
Yeah,
They're
they do.
supposed to look like perfection. So this was made in 2005. It was set in 2019. That's a 14-year gap in the future. And here's a synopsis. A man living in a futuristic sterile colony begins to question his circumscribed existence when his friend is chosen to go to the island, the last uncontaminated place on Earth. Directed by Michael Bay. And starring Ewan McGregor, Scarlett Johansson, Sean Bean, Michael Clark Duncan, Steve Buscemi.
Peak Michael Bay. I mean, Bad Boys 2 might have something to say about that.
Armageddon would like a word. No, that's...
We
Yeah.
save it for our
No, it
Michael
is.
Bay show that we did.
Yeah,
already.
exactly.
No, okay.
I have no concept of this movie other than that episode of Baconsale.
Do you know
haven't
anything
seen
about
it?
it, by the way?
No, nothing.
So we're going to spoil. I'm going to spoil 2005.
The concept
Island.
has been used in a lot of other utopian stories.
Not entirely, but definitely parts the Clonus Horror from Mystery Science Theater. This is a ripoff of parts the Clonus Horror.
And like the lottery, like if you win, you're not
Yeah.
really winning.
Yeah.
Yes.
The spoiler alert 5, 6, 7, 8. These people in this utopian society where they're told the earth has been poisoned outside and they're not allowed to go outside, and so they're keeping them here. And eventually you can go to the island if you win the lottery, so letting some people there. They're perfect. Everyone looks great. Everyone looks, is working out and doing their best. And it's because they need to stay healthy because they are going to be harvested for organs because they have they're a clone of someone famous or rich on the other side, on the real world. There is no poisoning the earth. The earth is fine, doing their thing, and they just think they grow these clones in like these embryonic sacs and then kind of give them basic education, keep them exercising and entertained so they don't get too, restless.
Yeah.
And then when the time comes, if, say, for example, a famous actress gets in a car accident and she needs a new pair of lungs, they will take the clone and say, okay, you've won a ticket to the island, and they'll take them over there and then get the lungs and give it to the actress.
Wow. That's
So-
conceptually really cool.
It is
It is,
conceptually cool.
actually.
I wish I would have seen
The score is actually incredible as well.
Oh, it's actually it's
Yeah.
a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
But world events in regard to the Earth being poisoned so no one can go outside, even though it was fake, I'm still going to dock them for that
Okay.
because it's just a prediction they made, and even the underground society. There's not much going on here, so I'm giving that a 0.
Have you ever been to Antarctica?
No.
Just saying.
Have you?
Has anybody?
No.
Doesn't exist.
Maybe not.
The Earth is
We've
flat.
been there. So the tech here. Let's talk about the tech. Advanced cloning, very advanced cloning. Like I don't even know if we've cloned everything since Dolly the sheep, but cloning has definitely not as caught up to where it needs to be for this to happen. However, they do have sleep rhythm detectors where like you wear a wristband and it will detect how you're sleeping and let you know if your sleep has been interrupted. They have smart toilets in this movie where it analyzes anything that goes in them and lets them know your sodium is too high. You need to change your diet.
Oh, the toilet would judge me?
Not judge you, just recommend things and tell you that you're a terrible person.
You've been eating too much Totino's.
But there
It's a
are
great idea.
Smart toilets do exist.
Oh, really?
It's out there.
Wait, they do?
Yes.
I hate them.
They have wristbands that
Skynet.
you can scan and identify yourself, just like at Disneyland.
Okay.
They have oatmeal dispensers.
Walt Disney World. Yes.
I like how they put oatmeal
Oh,
dispensers.
yeah, exactly.
Virtual reality fighting, yes, but it's like holograms by Xbox. Like it's like you stand outside this cage, this MMA cage, and these two holograms will fight each other, and you kind of get a workout by doing that. They also have smart tables, drawing tablets. This is before the iPad came out, mind you. They do have like a nanobots that they put inside someone's eye at one point and like it scans their brain and everything. That was totally out of the realm. We don't have that. Remote controlled surgery, yes. They have these weird glass rod keys, no. Green sighted laser rifles, sure. If you want to put a green laser on your
Yeah,
gun,
sure.
you can do that. But then once they get outside and see the real world, you got jet bikes.
Yes.
No. You've got elevated cable trains, like trains that are running on cables around the city so they're not on the ground. No. The helicopters look the same.
I feel a conspiracy.
There's camera monitored city streets everywhere. Yes. Facial recognition software. Yes. They don't have phone booths, but they have info booths where you walk into a booth and you say, I'm looking for Kent Dunn, and it'll pull up your listing, and then you can call them and have video calls using Cisco systems.
What?
Probably a sponsor of that movie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which Cisco does WebEx, if you
Yes.
don't know, which is a popular video conferencing service. They have large flat screen TVs, voice controlled video calls, thumbprint scanners, face scanners at doors, voice activated GPS. This got a lot right for 14 years out. I was actually kind of like, not
Yeah.
bad. But then the jet bikes. What was that? It's like they have this whole grounded reality thing, and then these flying
It's
bikes.
a cool chase, though.
It's a
a
Michael
cool
Bay
chase.
movie.
Yes. But I want to give it a 3 because I was actually really surprised by a lot of the things they were throwing out there. And it really didn't get too bad until they got in the real world. But by the way, culture, everyone lives under orange or blue lighting because it's a Michael
yeah,
Bay
it's
movie.
Michael Bay. Sure.
And everyone drinks Michelob Light. And that's not true.
So 0.
So 0, 3, 0. Is
Okay.
the answer.
0 for world events, 0 for culture, but 3 for
For
tech.
tech. I'll give it
Got
3
the
for
right.
tech because I was surprised.
3 points for the island. All right, now we're going to go over to the good old 2020. I mean, let's be honest, no movie could get 2020 right. Real Steel.
Yes.
Yes, the synopsis here is gambling rock'em sock'em robots meets absentee parenthood.
Accurate.
That's what this movie is.
Hugh Grant, or not Hugh Grant, good heavens.
Hugh
Jackman.
Huge Ackman.
Hugh Grantman.
Hugh Grantman. And Evangeline Lilly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, yeah.
What do we say? Peak Evangeline
Peak
Lilly.
for
Lilly.
sure.
Yeah. In the near future,
It's not Peak Jackman, though. Peak Jackman is Wolverine.
It's the Wolverine.
The
Yeah?
Wolverine is
Yeah,
Peak
Pete Jackman is the Wolverine.
Hmm.
In the near future, robot boxing is a top sport. A struggling ex-boxer feels he's found a champion in a discarded robot. This is exactly what I wrote for World Events. I'm not so sure what's going on, but Hugh Jackman is very handsome. So I mean, a point.
It's an event.
Yeah.
Will you give it a point for that?
Yeah, I do. No. What I put here is so there's these robots that are almost like avatars or kind of like battle bots that are used to,
Robot wars.
to fight
That's the
robot
thing.
wars,
Yeah.
right? But the reason behind it I found is very interesting. They were talking about there was boxing, and then people wanted to see more carnage. They wanted to see more violence, and so they stepped it up. But if you think about it, that kind of has happened. Boxing itself has really fallen out of favor for the most part. Aside
We
from
need
the,
another Rocky movie.
yeah, well, aside from the gambling
We
aspect,
don't. Please don't do that.
No, well, another Creed.
No, thank you.
But really, what's the popular fighting sport right now? We have MMA, which is way more violent because there's more that you can do. So in a sense, the whole people want to see more carnage thing kind of did come to pass with UFC. Which,
guess.
granted,
Well,
in 2011, UFC was still a
I
thing.
even kind of see this as an esports kind of thing because when they have crowds
Yep.
watching, yeah, you have avatars or in-game
Right.
characters that thousands of people are watching.
So, yeah, well, that's the thing. Looking at the tech of it too.
Yeah.
The robots are controlled in the movie 3 different ways. There's like
None of the ways make sense to me.
there's a handheld controller, and I think my note here is the robot controller makes no sense at all. That's what I wrote down.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like it's like a drone controller, for some reason, makes very minute movements of a shoulder. And then there's headsets and voice manipulation.
Uppercut.
Yeah. And I guess technically there's 4 ways. But the another main way that a lot of the competitors use is they're sitting at these almost like Ender's Game style stations with these big screens that are using. And so that's where, when you talk about the esports, that's kind of what we look at now with esports.
Well, I was going to say that the hand control was more like consoles, and then PC Master Race is there over there on the table doing other stuff.
Totally. The technology that is maybe not so realistic is what they call the shadow function, where the robot will just look at whatever it's in front of and then just mimic perfectly,
or what's behind
it,
time. Or to the side of it, depending on what the movie needs.
Makes no sense. The robots, that's totally viable. How they're controlled makes absolutely no sense at all. No. The robot controllers are kind of dumb. But one of actually multiple different robots are run on HP software. I know, because there's a bunch of HP logos everywhere.
Sure.
And they're still a thing in 2020. They make a lot of stuff.
They never did make the Xbox 720, right?
Yes. In the final battle, there's a bunch of ads, and all the ads are viable still, but they do say Xbox 720, which
They
I
didn't
found
realize it'd
very
be
funny.
Xbox
And I had
One.
the Xbox in the island, too. What the heck, Xbox?
It's like
Is that
Microsoft
the
has
console of the
Microsoft
future?
No, the real joke here is that Hugh Jackman uses a Nokia phone in 2020. That's not a thing.
Indestructible, though.
No.
They are.
And I need to bring this up, though. I need to complain. What is it with movies? So we talk about, like, a lot of them do the flying car thing to show us the future. Why do movies insist that we are going to have clear see-through screens?
I know, so someone can see, like, behind your phone.
Why would you want that?
I've never-
Just because it looks futuristic. I'm like, that's completely impractical.
Yeah, it's like if I were, like, texting someone and the person that was sitting in front of me can read all my messages. I don't want that.
The other
Yeah.
thing is the holographic displays. They kind of do the hand waving things to manipulate the images.
Yeah. I mean, pinch and zoom and stuff, that's totally a thing on the tablets. But in this movie, it does feature both clear see-through phones. Again, Nokia, nobody has those. And tablet screens as well. In his truck, his like GPS navigation screen is like a pop-up see-through screen. And again, I just never get that. But he does have a in his truck, he has about like a 7 to 10 inch display, and those are now standard issue in cars.
Yes.
I mean, even in 2020.
Thank you, Real Steel.
Yeah, Real Steel is the reason why I have a huge screen in my
Real
car.
Still's the real deal.
It's plausible to have the robots. How they're controlled, not so much. So I'm going to get this. I want to give it at least
give it a 1.
point.
Give it a
Give it a
1.
one.
1
One
point.
sounds fair.
World events, I'm also going to give it a 1.
Okay.
I don't think that it's far off. And then as far as the culture goes, I mean, the culture is more or less exactly the same as it is now. So
But Evangeline Lilly's in the movie.
I should give it a 4?
You probably.
She's looking good in this movie.
So probably.
Oh,
one.
but that 11-year-old kid's in it, so this can get a 1 as well in culture. I'll give it a total of 3 points
Okay, 3
for
points.
Real Steel. Now we move over to the current year, 2021, with Mission to Mars.
Oh, Mission to Mars or Red Planet or whatever you want to call it.
I don't know which
Does
one this is.
anyone remember
I have no idea.
this movie?
We talked about it on Twin or Winner.
We did. This came out in 2000. So in 2020, the first manned mission to Mars, Mars 1, was sent with a crew. There's a rescue mission a year later with Gary Sinise and Tim Robbins. And there's this big kind of alien face on Mars. And there's all these windstorms around it and everything like that. The movie gets...
When you say face, like in the rocks?
No, like it's like, no. It's a literal, it looks like carved out of marble, Gray's face.
Was
On
it
Mars.
Candace from Phineas and Ferb?
It is. Oh, you're going straight to Candace, huh? That's rude.
reference.
And so, really, the movie doesn't try to make it futuristic, other than saying, "Hey,
when
guys,
was it
we go to
made?
Mars." This was made in 2000.
So this is
So this
21 years in the future.
Yeah, this is a big craze. I guess maybe the unrealistic part is they're saying NASA is still a viable thing, and NASA is doing this. Where we know that Elon Musk probably will do this before NASA. In fact, he's trying.
He'll do it with NASA. I mean, he's going to do all the hard stuff.
You don't think it'll be SpaceX first? I think he'll want all the glory. Because he says 2024, he's going to try it.
Oh,
he's
To go to Mars?
yeah, because NASA says 2030.
Yeah.
But in 2024, NASA's saying we're going to try to send someone back to the moon.
Just to the moon first, dude.
Yeah, and that's the
Elon
thing.
Musk, just go for the moon.
Yeah, NASA says we're going to try for the moon again, and he's like, no, we're going to go to Mars. But he's also hoping that Mars will have a livable colony at some point in the next decade. But so that would be the thing. I think maybe it's the relevant thing is it didn't happen in 2021. But it could happen within the next 10 years. And they do talk about if, like, they're looking for water or ice for planetary colonization. It's not a big focus of the movie. But, yeah, I think there are a lot of people afraid of us using all of Earth's resources. They would like us to colonize another planet. I don't think that quite gets to the point. I'd still give it a 0 for world events. Culture, there's no predictions at all, so I'd give it a 0. But tech, I think because this could be doable if Elon Musk gets his way and maybe works with NASA, maybe in 10 years. I might give it a 1
Yeah, I'd say 1.
So you're giving 1 point to this movie.
to Mission to Mars.
1 point.
Don't watch it, though. If you haven't seen it, it's not very
Yeah.
good. It's not very
At
good
least
all.
10 years off, so it's no better than a 1.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we're going to finish up then. This next one is our last movie, and we saved a good one for the last. In 2021, Kent?
Johnny Mnemonic.
Mnemonic. Mnemonic.
Phenomena. Johnny Mnemonic. So made in 1995, set in 2021. Here's what's funny about this movie. It came out 4 years before The Matrix, which I think, well, Keanu Reeves is not always seen as the best actor. And Johnny Mnemonic,
He's
Am I
occasionally
not always never?
he's occasionally seen as a
he's-
good actor.
Yeah, exactly. He is perfect in a few roles. And so I don't think a lot
Matrix,
of...
by the way, peak Reeves.
Hold on. Speed?
Meh.
You didn't go Matrix?
What's
Matrix.
that one where he goes in time?
Oh,
Bill and Ted?
Time Traveler's Wife? Is he
no,
in
it's
that?
the house.
The house. The lake
Mailbox?
house.
Cabin in
Lake
the
house.
woods.
Lake house.
Yeah.
Lake house is peak Keanu.
So anyways, John Wick. We're not going John Wick.
That's good. That's a victory lap.
That's Keanu
Okay.
Sans.
Keanu Sans.
But Johnny Mnemonic really soiled people on his acting abilities to the point where they didn't really want to see him in another movie, because if you haven't seen this movie, it is so bad it's good.
Wait, when did Much Ado About Nothing come out? Because that's
I think it's 94.
because those. I was gonna say that's gonna be the
But he
1-2
shouldn't
punch.
played.
That was the 1-2 punch of bad acting. I
Yeah.
think.
The opening crawl for this one, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's second decade of the 21st century. Corporations rule. The world is threatened by a new plague, NOS. And it really is NOS.
Nas, like the stuff that makes cars go in
It's
Fast and the Furious.
nerve attenuation syndrome. It's fatal, epidemic. Its cause and cure unknown. So we have a current plague happening in 2021. And then they talk about how there's like hackers, data pirates, guerrilla fighters. Oh, basically, Keanu Reeves is a courier. He's a skilled fighter, but he's a courier where he has a hard drive in his skull, like in his brain.
How big of a hard drive are we talking here?
The maximum he's supposed to, like he just got an upgrade, so it's 160 gigs.
Wow.
So basically a flash drive, like a less than a flash drive size. But in this movie, he accidentally, he purposely does, but he shouldn't have, 320 gigs, and it's killing him. He needs to get the information out of his brain. And it's funny because you look at like a terabyte of information at this point, and it's small.
Yeah.
I'm not saying put it into your brain. It's a little weird this movie didn't predict the cloud, but the reason they have couriers is because someone is trying to send information on a flash drive in someone's brain that you can only unlock in certain ways, but it's a secure way to get from point A to point B that's not digital. And then somehow there is a hacker dolphin at the end of this movie. So this movie's funny because it kind of does a Lawnmower Man thing where there's virtual reality, and it kind of does the whole you're traveling on a glowing motherboard. You know how like movies do that sometimes?
Yeah.
So like the in Community.
Yes. Yeah, precisely. I really think Community probably got that from this and Lawnmower Man. But the virtual reality is perfect. He puts on the goggles. He puts on gloves, just like you would have like paddles. And he even lays out like a mat, like it's very specific to the size of the room and everything. And that's how he controls virtual reality.
But the virtual reality, how does it look?
No, it's not good. It's not good. It's like, it's the motherboard.
Because I played
the
that
technology.
stupid horror game you made me play. And I'm pretty sure it probably looked better than whatever Keanu Reeves was looking at in that headset.
Well, sure, but he is hacking the internet. In fact, one of the first screens is Internet 2021. This movie also predicted FaceTime. FaceTime didn't exist, obviously, when this movie was made.
Sure.
1995. And there's FaceTime in the car, just through a screen. There's no HD in sight, right? Like a lot of the TV they watch is like Casablanca or old cartoons. But there is FaceTime in payphones. Once again,
payphones.
Yeah, there's no cell phones in this movie. Oh, and Ice-T, at one point, Ice-T plays like the underground leader of the Low-Techs, and he says, "Get your VCRs ready."
Oh.
This is 2021.
Oh, dang it.
I kind of want to give it a 1, though.
For tech?
For tech, for FaceTime,
Well,
and
I mean,
for the distribution of
VR
data.
is cool.
thinking that the human brain can't handle 160 gigabytes.
Yeah.
Is a little, it's funny to me. That's just funny to me.
Yeah.
Of course, now I'm like, I remember when I first saw the first terabyte hard drive, I'm like, how would you ever use that much space?
Right. But
And
you
now we are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've got bigger hard drives.
I've
but-
got a 12 terabyte at my house.
It
That's
makes you wonder,
ridiculous.
do you know if it was a hard drive or it was like a solid state drive? Like, did they get into that tech at all?
They don't.
It's like if he had
They
spinning
just say,
discs in his
did
head.
you get the upgrade? Yeah, I got the upgrade.
I just imagine these two spinning discs just in his head.
I got the upgrade.
Is that like Nicolas Cage?
Nicolas Cage Reeves.
Yeah. But so world events. So Big Pharma is the corporation in this one that is trying to control.
The name of it is Big Pharma?
No, it's Pharmacom.
Ah.
And
okay.
it is the big corporation controlling everything, and that's who basically is trying to free everyone from Big Pharma. And the plague is linked to a signal in this one, which, I mean, if you're conspiratorial, 5G.
Whoa.
So
Light and fluffy.
I kind of want to give world events, and honestly, like most 90s movies that are trying to be set in the future, most of this movie takes place in a slum because then they don't have to predict much.
Right.
And it is a little bit silly because like the resistance is silly and the bad guys are ridiculous.
Do the cops in all these futuristic movies like wear all black and all black helmets
Yes.
in every single future movie? It feels like it.
Yes. They look like the paramilitary, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, riot gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of want to give this one a 1 for world events because it has the current plague, which is, mysterious. They don't know really how to stop it.
Sure.
And then for culture, these cities are similar to what we picture in the 90s, so not a ton of predictions. The people in nightclubs look like they're like almost like at the Hunger Games capital or like Europe.
Yep.
They look weird.
I like that's your comparison. Hunger Games capital or anywhere in that country over there.
European.
Yeah.
And then Ice-T looks like he just came off the set of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. So I'm going to give it a 0 for culture just because it's just, it's not really relevant whatsoever. But yeah, so I'm going to give it a 2 on this one.
2 points for this movie.
For Johnny Mnemonic. And when he hacks, I don't want to give it too many spoilers.
Go for it.
But yeah, he works alongside a hacker dolphin kept in a pool. Have you seen this movie, Joel?
No.
At the end of the movie, he's trying to hack the internet, almost like he's like Neo, and he's trying to tell the world what Pharmacom is doing.
Is the dolphin at a like at a keyboard? Is it
No, the
like
dolphin
flippers?
has a virtual reality set on its head. And so when he goes into this glowing motherboard in virtual reality, it swims and it's like a CG dolphin. And together they hack the internet and show the world on their TV screens what's really happening.
How does a dolphin wear a headset?
Don't worry about it. It's a dolphin. It's super smart.
Echo.
Yeah. Johnny Mnemonic, 2 points.
So let me do a quick review of our entire list. From the bottom, scoring, we'll say 6th place, is Metropolis. Was awarded no points.
That's so sad.
Considered the least accurate on this list. And it was the only one that scored 0
The
points.
the biggest gap we had there too.
Yeah, it makes sense, honestly. And then we had 3 movies scoring 1 point, which were Mission to Mars, Time Cop, and Escape from New York. Then we had 5 movies scoring 2 points, which were Mad Max, Bicentennial Man, I Am Legend, Blade Runner, and Johnny Mnemonic. Then we had 4 movies that scored 3 points. Star Trek, V for Vendetta, The Island, and Real Steel. We had 1 lone movie with 4 points, 2001 A Space Odyssey. And then we had 2 movies tying for the most amount of points, which is 5, with Back to the Future Part 2 and The Running Man.
That's awesome.
Good group.
I'm looking. I was going to say I'm looking at my list for Running Man right now, and I have more red than green, meaning more misses than hits.
Sure.
So,
But what it gets right, though. It was
mostly,
trying.
It was mostly because of the voice activated stuff and because of the CGI manipulation. Deep fakes, but I don't know. It feels weird to put it up there with. Well, of course, Back to the Future
Back
wasn't
to the
that
Future
accurate
doesn't
either.
have that. So I think
All right, I'm fine with it then.
The Running Man and Back to the Future, similarly, they made a lot of predictions.
Yeah.
And so if you make a lot of predictions, you can get a lot right. Whereas some of these movies, especially
try
the
for
ones
one
that
or
I talk
two.
about,
Yeah.
I Am Legend makes really no predictions about the tech of the future. Real Steel, just a couple. And so, yeah, they may not all hit. So
Yeah.
the movies that do a lot have a higher success rate.
There you go. So, Ryan, thank you, by the way, for bringing this to our attention and getting us through this.
Tiebreaker, though.
Yeah.
Which one is has the
bigger
biggest
gap.
gap?
Biggest gap.
Running Man is 30 years in the future. Although, by the way, the book came out in 82, I think it is. And it's the book it was by Stephen King, Richard Bachman.
Oh, yeah.
But he said it 43 years in the future. So they actually shortened the gap for the movie.
So we give the Bacon Award to The Running Man. Because it's a 30-year gap as opposed to a 26-year gap.
But technically, the movie was set in 1985,
85.
going to 30 years. I don't know. It's
The Running Man is the most accurate predictor of the future.
if you've seen it, that's not. It seems so
terrible.
far
Those
off.
jumpsuits.
Oh man, what's his name? The guy that sings opera and shoots lightning out of
Yeah.
his hands. He has like a light bright suit. Insane.
I
Dynamo.
can't wait for that.
You heard it
It's
here
going to
on
be on
Baconsale.
TLC.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but there you go. Ryan, anyone you want to give a shout out to here at the end?
I just give a shout out to my son. He listens quite often, so
All right.
shout out to him.
Hey.
Nice. And let us know, by the way, if we missed any movies that you can think of that were set in a time that has already passed. And then we'll see if we're able to do one of these shows again. But before we go, we'd like to thank our patrons, in particular the I Am the Listener tier, which includes Sweet Bottom Cakes, Jessica Drought, Sean Sanquist, Plot Twist Media, Lady Terry A. Finley, Just Plain Old Kyler, Jennifer Kukowski, Glow Clin Daniel, Braden Winterton, Babs, Allison Gall, Alicia Bass, Adrian Gray, and Adam Rachel Crump. And then we have our Bacon Council, which includes The Shadow, Stephen Ross, Ryan and Marley Farron. Hey! See you guys. Our favorite couple of the Madsons, Nicole Decale, Go Knights Go, Mats, Chris Anderson, Her Royal Highness Jessica Terry, and Reverse Listener. Thank you, patrons. We really do appreciate it. You help us do what we do here in the Bacon Cave. So thank you for that. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. You can find me performing with Quickwits. They're going to be performing again in person on Saturday nights. Keep an eye on qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
You can find me at Twitter and Instagram at Kenny3DD. You can read my movie reviews at ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at Tumbling Mustard. But more importantly, make sure you're following Baconsale on social media. Go ahead and like the Facebook page and follow at Baconsale on Twitter and Instagram. While you're doing that, stop by tpublic.com/Baconsale. We've got a new shirt design up there. You can go and purchase that.
Yeah.
In addition to a bunch of other fun stuff. tpublic.com/Baconsale. And then if you like what's going on with the show and want to support it further, you can go to patreon.com/Baconsale, where support starts at just $3 a month. You can get fun Bacon bits that talk about movie trailers that are coming out, conspiracy theories about the industry, and, well, Joel doesn't talk that much on it.
No.
Patreon.com/Baconsale.
So until next time, guys, I guess we'll do this again in 2032 after the franchise wars, when Taco Bell is the lone chain restaurant left in the entire world.
Yes. Wait, you get to go to Alaska?
You get to start World War III.
Zach has to get married?
In 5 days?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kangaroos have taken over the earth.
Very bottom heavy. But Rose.
Rose. Rose.
Wait, what were you doing? I was doing Titanic.
And Christopher Walken came in.
Why is he sing Rose?
Oh, I always do that. I just imagine Christopher Walken was in Titanic.
Outback Steakhouse.
That's not
Bloomin'
Australian.
onion.
Get some Alice Springs chicken.
Donkashane, darling Donkashane.
Oh, wow. There we go. Thank you for putting into PlayStation terms.
Every time my wife sees that, and she's like, "Oh,
Shirtless newsies, shirtless newsies.
Spots.
Captain Kirk,
And
please
then-
do not take off your shirt again."
Fitbit.
So we had slimy Jabba.
Well, Kubrick did film the moon landing.
1927, man.
So you're
They
saying
didn't have deodorant back then. Time Cop.
So even though they have a time machine, they should talk about their favorite Harry Potter
There should have
movie.
been one reference to a time turner or Hermione or like, wow, I got to be
Potter
careful.
movie.
Hey, you want to go save Buckbeak? Something like that, but nothing. Happy birthday, Polly. Not with big payphone out there.
Roomba? Anyone?
Doesn't have legs. Not bipedal.
Your jacket is now dry. People suffer on The Bachelor just like they suffer in The Running Man.
Running Man is the most accurate.
No.
Oh, the toilet would judge me?
The helicopters look the same.
Phenomena. Johnny Mnemonic. The people in nightclubs look like they're like almost like at the Hunger Games capital or like Europe.
But Colin's dreamy.